The history of the Mongol Empire. Imagine an empire that stretched from Eastern Europe to Eastern Asia, uniting diverse cultures and creating an unprecedented network of trade. The power and grandeur of the Mongol Empire, the second largest contiguous empire in history. In this video, we travel back in time to immerse ourselves in the history of this legendary civilization. We will explore the origins of the Mongol people, the figures of Genghis Khan, and his strategic skills that enabled the creation of an immense empire. We will learn about the innovative military tactics that enabled the Mongols to conquer far more powerful and numerous nations. We will travel along the Silk Road and trade route that flourished under Mongol rule, promoting cultural and scientific exchange between the East and the West. Before the formation of the empire, the term Mongols referred to a large linguistic and cultural group made up of different tribes: Orkidi, Oryati, Nemani, Kirati, Ongoti, Tinguti, etc., as well as the Mongol tribe, which gave its name to the entire ethnos. The Mongol allied themselves with the Kiryati and successfully defeated all the other tribes. All these tribes live in the areas of present-day Mongolia and the Chinese regions of Xinjiang, Tibet, and Inner Mongolia. According to Chinese chronicles, Temujin Borjin was born in 1162 in the mountains of Intij province, on the banks of the Herlin River. Little is known about his childhood. At the age of 9, he followed his father, Yusugwe, head of the Borjin clan, on a journey to the east where he met Borte, daughter of the chief Ungrat and his future wife. During this journey, he also made the acquaintance of Jamuka, the son of another chief, with whom he formed a brotherly friendship, which, as we shall see, soon became a fierce rivalry. But soon his father was poisoned, and Temujin was left to survive with his mother and siblings, who received no help from the other members of the clan. At the age of 16, he married Borte and together with his friends and relatives, regained control of his tribe and began to subjugate neighboring tribes. Within a few years, also by forging alliances with the strongest clans in the region, his strength became unstoppable. So much so that when the Mongolian Tribal Council met to consider a new leader, he was chosen. From that moment on, he became Khagan, or Khan of Khans, and adopted the name Genghis Khan, or leader of all men. From his court of Karakorum, Mongolia, Genghis Khan planned his military expeditions with extreme precision. The last Mongol populations were subdued in the area of the Amur River. Under his orders, a huge army made up of both Turkic and Mongol populations was mobilized. The first to be sent into a new territory were always warriors. The most extraordinary aspect of Genghis Khan's personality was his genius in the military field. With his formidable tactics, the Mongol army, strong with horse archers, attacked in complete silence, led only by flags of different colors, performing complex maneuvers in absolute symmetry and coordination, which instilled a supernatural fear in the enemy. Genghis Khan organized the peoples he conquered according to a highly hierarchical political military system based on mobility. Each tribe was independent, but all were subordinate to the imperial family, the so-called Golden Line, sacred because it was mythologically derived from the sky god Tengri, the supreme deity of the Mongols. The entire empire was the Ulis of the imperial family. All the Khans owed allegiance and respect to the great Khan, who oversaw them through a swift and organized system of stewards and couriers. The army was reorganized and strengthened. When soldiers traveled, they carried their families and all their horses, which often numbered at least 3 or 4 to a horseman, so that fresh transport animals were always available. Another fundamental aspect of the military organization was the total adherence to meritocracy. The only criteria used by Genghis Khan to determine an officer's rank were his ability and loyalty, while the traditional parameters of birth and descent were virtually ignored. The son of a cattle guard, Sugde, became one of his most respected commanders. By 1211, the Mongol peoples were united and Genghis Khan set his sights on China, a greater goal chosen both to avenge ancient defeats and to conquer the riches of the Celestial Empire. The Mongols won many victories in the open field, but failed in their attempts to conquer major cities. With his typically logical and determined mentality, Genghis Khan and his senior officers then devoted themselves to the study of siege techniques, aided by defected Chinese engineers until they became specialists in this military field. As a result of victories in the open field and some conquest of fortifications, the Mongols pushed south of the Great Wall in 1213, They advanced with 3 armies into the heart of Chinese territory between the Great Wall and the Yellow River. Genghis Khan defeated the Chinese armies, ravaged northern China, captured many cities, and finally in 1215 besieged, captured, and sacked the Jin capital of Yanjing, now Beijing. In 1218, the lands controlled by Genghis Khan extended westward to Lake Balkhash, bordering Chromesia, an Islamic state that extended the Caspian Sea, the Gulf of Persia, and the Arabian Sea. In 1223, the region of Khorassan was annexed to the Mongol Empire, excluding cities such as Samarkand and Bukhara. By this time, the Tatar Mongols had conquered China and the Tibetan Himalayan region, Central Asia, today's Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan, Persia, the Caucasus, today's Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, and the region between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, regions very similar to where the Tatars came from, steppes without vegetation. After these conquests, the Mongols clashed with the Kiev and Rus, then one of the largest and most powerful kingdoms in Eastern Europe. To face this terrible threat, Prince Mstislav III of Kiev allied with other Russian princes in the area and prepared to march against the Mongols. On 31st of May, 1223, one of the most important battles in history took place, the Battle of the Kalka River in the Donetsk region, between the Rus and the Mongol. The Mongol general Zhib and Subday, close allies of Genghis Khan, won a crushing victory, and the road to the conquest of Eastern Europe seemed to be paved. But as is often the case, fate intervened and changed the course of history. The 2 generals made an error of judgment, thinking that they had only defeated part of the enemy army, and decided not to continue their advance. On the contrary, Kievan troops had been almost annihilated and could not have resisted any further. In 1226 and 1227, Genghis Khan resumed his military campaign against China, in particular against the Western Jia dynasty, the Tangut Empire, which had been his ally for years, accusing them of treason. The war went worse than expected, and although it ended in Genghis Khan's favor, he was wounded in battle and fell from his horse. His health was already very poor due to his advanced age, and after a few weeks of agony, Genghis Khan died, the 25th of August, 1227. He named as his heir his 3rd son, Ogedei, who was confirmed as the new Khan in 1229. After a short period of regency by Tulu, Genghis Khan's youngest son and one of the Mongols' strongest warriors. Ogedei was responsible for establishing the first embryonic bureaucratic system of the Mongolian Empire and for creating the highly efficient Mongolian postal service. He organized a new attempt to conquer Europe, gathering more than 150,000 men, and together with General Batu Khan, Genghis's nephew, they conquered the Baltic countries, vast areas of Poland to Bohemia, reaching the borders of the Italian peninsula, and then descending into the Balkans. No one seemed to be able to stop them, but once again, an event occurred that forced them to turn back. In 1241, Ogedei died and his son Guyuk was elected. Unlike in the past, however, his election was not recognized by everyone, and Batu Khan decided to turn back to confront and defeat him. Guyuk died before he could face him, and after a period of regency, in 1251, the new Khan became Munkeh, son of Tulu and thus grandson of Genghis Khan, while Batu Khan remains in the center of the empire, ruling over some areas. His reign was also marked by wars and conflicts between the various tribes. He turned his attention away from Europe and towards China. He died in 1259 during the siege of Chongqing. After Genghis Khan's death, the empire went through a long period of internal crisis. None of the new Khans had the charisma and strength to rule unchallenged. The empire was divided into 4 major regions. The Great Khanate, consisting of Karakorum and China, where Tulu and his descendants ruled. The Golden Horde Khanate of the Kipchak territories, i.e. West Central Asia, which in turn consisted of the Blue Horde Khanate and the White Horde Khanate, and where Jochi's descendants ruled. The Il Khanate of the southwestern territories, including the modern Middle East. The Chagatai Khanate of the territories of Central Asia, where the sons of Genghis and his descendants lived. When Munkeh died, the other 3 sons of Tule clashed in a terrible civil war, in which Kublai Khan, one of them, won. There still seemed to be hope for the Mongol Empire. To better manage the empire, the new Khan confirmed the division of the empire and institutionalized it. During the civil war, Kublai also had to deal with the threat from Yizhou, where Governor Li had unsuccessfully turned against him. With the figure of Kublai Khan, the history of Mongolia became intertwined with that of China. In 1271, he officially proclaimed the establishment of the Yuan dynasty. and the following year he declared the capital to be Beijing, then called Khanbalik because it was the Khan's residence. In 1274, he organized a great military expedition to complete the conquest and unification of China. This was achieved in 1279 when he defeated the last rival dynasty, the Song dynasty of Hangzhou. If the high point of the Mongol Empire was during the reign of Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan was certainly its greatest expansion, encompassing all of Central and East Asia. He ruled better than his predecessors as an absolute ruler and promoted the economic growth of the empire with the reconstruction of the Great China Canal, the restoration of public buildings, and the expansion of the road network. But his domestic policies also drew on aspects of ancient Mongolian traditions. As his reign progressed, these customs increasingly came into conflict with traditional Chinese culture in the economic, social, and even religious spheres. He also introduced paper money, although inflation and a lack of fiscal discipline proved disastrous. He encouraged Chinese arts and showed religious tolerance except for Taoism, whose individualistic and rebellious spirit he did not share. After conquering Yunnan and Goryeo, Korea, under pressure from his Mongolian advisors, he attempted to conquer Japan, Myanmar, Burma, Train Hongdao, Vietnam, and Java. However, the failure of these costly attempts, together with the introduction of paper money, led to massive inflation. Despite these failures, Kublai Khan was able to force the warlords of the northwest and northeast to surrender, ensuring stability for these regions. In his later years, Kublai Khan was plagued by a severe gout. He became fat as a result of poor diet. Particularly, it was said, by eating too many internal organs of animals. It was believed that he adopted these habits after the death of his favorite wife and designated heir. Gout was the cause of his death in 1294 at the age of 78. The Mongol Empire was now too vast, and while Kublai Khan conquered territories in the east, the central and western parts went their way. The Golden Horde Khanate, officially founded by Batu Khan, survived longest until 1480. But by the 14th century, both the Russians and the Lithuanians had begun to conquer various territories. The Ilkhanate in Persia dissolved in 1335 due to a dynastic crisis, as did the Chagatai, which collapsed in 1363. All three Western Khanates fought constantly with each other over border disputes. Each would eventually adopt Islam as the state religion, another bone of contention between the elites. The territories of the Ilkhanate and the Chagatai Khanate were eventually occupied by Timur, Tamerlane, founded of the Timurid Empire, 1370 to 1507. Even the Yuan state in China succumbed to the all-too-familiar civil wars between rival groups. With a weak economy crippled by famine and local rebellions, the Ming dynasty was able to conquer China in 1368. In the last epoch of their empire, the Mongols had become part of the sedentary societies they had so easily conquered, making it impossible for them, like any other state, to be replaced by others willing to embrace new ideas and technologies. Like all great civilizations, the Mongol Empire did not last forever. Internal divisions, power struggles, and the rise of new regional powers led to its fragmentation and decline, but its legacy remains indelible, a testament to the strength and tenacity of a people who forged a legendary empire capable of uniting different cultures and leaving an indelible mark on world history.